The morning light spilled gently across the curtains, turning the air into gold. James sat by the window, a half-finished cup of coffee cooling between his hands. The world outside seemed peaceful, but inside him, old echoes stirred, failures, betrayals, regrets, ghosts that refused to fade. Yet of all his wounds, none cut deeper than the one love had left. In the garden, Diep bent over the lilies, her fingertips brushing the petals he'd planted for her months earlier. She smiled faintly, though her heart still carried the bruises of yesterday. Love had never been easy between them, it had come with storms, distance, and words that stung sharper than silence. James watched her quietly, a familiar ache pressing against his chest. He had vowed never to hurt her again, but promises were fragile things when weighed against human weakness. Many nights, he'd lain awake, haunted by the memory of her tears, tears caused not by cruelty, but by pride and fear. Life had taught them both that love wasn't built under the sun, but in the rain, in the breaking, the choosing, the staying. Diep had every reason to walk away, but she didn't. She stayed, and to James, that was the purest act of forgiveness. That morning, without a word, he walked toward her and wrapped his arms around her from behind. Startled, she froze, then slowly turned to meet his eyes. There was no need for apologies. The way he held her, trembling slightly, said everything. In that quiet stillness, between the rustle of leaves and the warmth of touch, they understood something profound. Love doesn't erase the wounds, it transforms them. Every scar was a lesson. Every tear, a seed of something stronger. Diep leaned into his chest, listening to the steady rhythm of his heart. Despite everything, this was home, not a place, not perfection, but a person who had learned, through mistakes, to love her better each day. Healing in the quiet days, weeks passed. Peace returned, gently but unevenly, like a tide. Healing was not a straight road, it came in soft relapses, quiet courage, and small acts of grace. James returned to work, rebuilding the company he had nearly lost. Yet amid the hum of meetings and the weight of decisions, his thoughts often drifted to Diep, to the woman who had stayed when everyone else had turned away. He wanted to give her more than words. He wanted to show that love could rebuild everything, not through grand gestures, but through consistency and truth. At home, Diep began painting again. Her brush glided across the canvas, creating skies, wildflowers, and light, small testaments to rediscovered joy. Every evening, James would pause by her easel and whisper, "It's beautiful." Without looking up, she would smile. "It's for us," but shadows still lingered. One night, as rain tapped softly against the window, Diep spoke, her voice trembling. "Sometimes I'm still scared," she admitted, "that one day you'll choose work over us again." Her words hung in the air, fragile, honest. James turned to her, his gaze heavy with regret. I used to think success meant having everything, he said quietly. But I was wrong. Without you, Diep, I have nothing. He took her hand and placed it over his heart. This beats because you stayed. Because you believed in me when I couldn't. Her tears came, but this time, they weren't from pain. They were the tears of being seen, understood. Then let's promise, she whispered. No matter how hard it gets, we'll talk. We'll fight, if we must. But we'll never walk away. That's a promise I'll keep, James replied, his voice soft but certain. Outside, the rain eased. The moonlight returned, silver and still. Inside, two hearts beat as one, not unscarred, but whole. The letter. Just as peace began to take root, life tested them again, not with anger, but with the quiet ache of the past. One morning, sunlight poured through the kitchen window as Diep opened a letter. The handwriting was familiar, neat, deliberate, and trembling with emotion. The name at the bottom made her breath hitch. John. The man who had once brought so much pain into their lives. Her hands shook as she unfolded the paper. Diep, I'm leaving the country soon. Before I go, I need to say I'm sorry. I destroyed lives out of revenge, but your kindness changed something in me. I hope one day you and James will forgive me. She sat motionless for a long while. The memories returned, fear, betrayal, heartbreak, but they felt distant now, like echoes of another life. That evening, she showed the letter to James. He read it in silence, then exhaled deeply. I thought I'd buried all that pain, he murmured. But maybe forgiveness isn't about forgetting. Maybe it's about setting ourselves free. Diep's eyes softened. The man before her, once proud, angry, driven by vengeance, now spoke with humility and peace. He's leaving, she said. Should we see him before he goes? James hesitated, then nodded. Yes, for us. Forgiveness by the river. They met John the next day at a small riverside cafe. Time had changed him. His once sharp features were now marked by exhaustion and remorse. When he saw them, he stood immediately. Thank you for coming, he said quietly. Silence followed, the kind that carried years of pain. Then James extended his hand. The past can't be changed, he said. But we can choose how it ends. John clasped his hand, eyes glistening. I don't deserve your forgiveness. Maybe not, Diep said softly. But forgiveness isn't something we deserve. It's something we give. For a moment, the world seemed to pause, three souls by a river, releasing years of bitterness into the current. When John finally walked away, Diep leaned against James. "Do you feel lighter?" she asked. "I feel human again," he answered with a faint smile. As the sun dipped behind the horizon, painting the sky gold, they both understood. Love, forgiveness, and healing were not separate things, they were one and the same. Love after the storm. Weeks passed. Life returned to its quiet rhythm. The laughter of little Nee filled their home, a melody of innocence and hope. One late afternoon, James tended the garden while Diep watched Nee chase butterflies across the grass. Her laughter rose into the air, pure, bright, and alive. The kind of sound that made every scar worth bearing. James looked over and smiled. "I used to think strength meant never falling," he said. "But now I know it's choosing to love again after being broken." Diep smiled back, eyes glimmering. "Every wound taught us something," she said. "Even the pain had its reason." He reached for her hand. "Every wound is a lesson. And you, Diep, you were my gentlest answer. And you," she whispered, "were my courage." Just then, Nee ran toward them with a wildflower clutched in her tiny hand. "For you, Mommy." "For you, Daddy." James knelt, his throat tightening as he took the flower. Diep bent down and kissed Nee's forehead. For a moment, time stood still, a small family bound not by perfection, but by forgiveness and love that had survived every storm. As the first stars appeared, James wrapped his arm around Diep. "We've been through everything: pain, loss, darkness. But we're still here, because love," she whispered, "was never about avoiding the pain. It was about walking through it together." Under the quiet sky, they finally found peace. Every wound had turned to wisdom, every tear to tenderness. Love had not rescued them like a miracle, it had taught them how to heal. Epilogue. A quiet home. Months later, life around their little house felt like a soft song. The walls once filled with tension now echoed with laughter, the scent of tea, and Nee's joyful humming as she drew by the window. James no longer chased success. Instead, he rose early to watch the sunrise with Diep, the simplest of moments, now the most sacred. One Sunday, they traveled to Diep's childhood village. The road was long and uneven, but their hearts were light. The fields were still green, the river still calm. "I used to dream of escaping this place," Diep said. "But now I realize it's where I learned love, patience, sacrifice, faith. And it's where I found you," James replied. "The woman who taught me to feel again." They sat by the riverbank, watching me toss stones into the water, her laughter echoing through the valley. We made it, James whispered. Because love never let us go, Diep said softly. Nee came running back, holding a small heart-shaped stone. Look, Mommy, Daddy, it's love, they laughed, freely, unguarded, beautifully human. For the first time in years, everything felt whole. Their hearts had been tested, their souls fractured, but through every scar, they had learned the same truth. Love, fragile, patient, forgiving, mends everything it touches. In the end, they didn't need perfection. They only needed this, a quiet home, a small family, and a love that had learned to last.